could be successful. If they're successful, then I am successful. So think of it as if this guy is successful, then I will be successful. And if I'm successful, then the financials will work and everyone wins. People get confused. They think that this is about money, which there's obviously a lot of it, and credit to the people who make that happen. Money is the least important. What is important is being successful in terms of changing the world. What I've learned about people is if you can motivate them around a mission, it's so much easier to manage them because they're busy. I don't need to worry about them. I don't need to worry about these people. I know they're busy because they actually care. And if what would happen, I'll give you an example. At Google in the early years, people would come to me and they would say, because you're asking about this, they'd say, well, I'd really like to work for you. I said, okay, well, that'd be great. I like you too. And he goes, but this person goes, but I'm a vice president now. My next job is CEO. So I have to be a COO, excuse me, which is the number 2 position. And I would say to them very nicely, we don't have a structure for a COO now, but we have a lot of hard problems. That turned out to be the decider. So there are 3 or 4 people who I personally liked who gave the wrong answer, and they would have made, I don't know, $1 billion had they just said, large numbers. Had they just said, I want to come here and I want to just work on the hardest problem you're facing. Because there's lots of hard problems. And people get confused as to what the priority is. If you work for me, as important as you are as a human, you have to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make the company successful. And in small companies, because there's this large amount of white space, you can occupy any spaces you want. So what I want you as my employee is to go occupy all these different spaces and sort them out and tell me where there's a problem because you're smarter than I am in this stuff. That's how it really works. In one of my books, in How Google Works, we talk about the distinction between divas and knaves. A diva is Steve Jobs. Brilliant, irascible, committed. No one ever questions Steve's commitment to his customers and to Apple and to the success of his firm. A knave is someone who is in a similar position, but they're fundamentally self-dealing. They're just optimizing for themselves. So if you remember that division, diva versus knave, and it's hard sometimes to tell, keep the divas, support them, because they're the ones that change the company. They're the ones that deliver these new products, but you have to listen to them. Whereas the knaves, frankly, you just have to fire them. And I'm sorry to say, but if their intrinsic nature is around themselves, and if they're not fundamentally going to rise to the cause and to the occasion and to the majesty of the power that they have, then it's not going to work. When I was at Google, every day I said to myself, I'm so fortunate to be able to lead this company and to play this role because of the consequences. And I never forgot that I was hired by the founders, and even though they nominally worked for me, in practice we worked as a team because I respected their contribution and they certainly respected mine.
Yeah. Where do you find the divas? How do you find it? Where?
Um, they show up, and they show up if there's something interesting. We've tried lots of different paths. Usually the divas are leading a technology effort, again, these are technology comments, in another company, and they're dissatisfied because they're not being treated and listened to, or they're somebody who's coming out of a university who's unusually broadly talented. A lot of university people are very narrow, of course, but there are people who cross that boundary. Sometimes they emerge out of your own employee base. What I've learned with organizations is don't call the question of somebody's success until they actually get tested. So especially with software, most people who are not software people cannot figure out what the software people are doing. And the software people in general cannot figure out what they're doing. It's not like hardware and something you're an expert in. And it's very hard to know if this team can pull it off. And so